Hello everybody and welcome to this replay cast, going back in time for the ESL finals that I didn't get to cover live because I was a bitch and I went to sleep. But this one of course comes more tailored for you, dear YouTube, so if you want to see more of these, like the freaking video! Spawning here in the top right side of the map, it is of course one of the OGest of Zergs, it's Solar. And his opponent to the bottom left, another really OG Protoss, we do have the blue Trap. I don't have as much attachment to Trap though to root for him in this. Trap is objectively a fantastic Protoss player. You will find it very difficult for anyone to disagree with that statement. But Solar is good and he's been a friend of the channel. I mean, back when we first started casting StarCraft, there was this little weekly cup called the Zotac Cup. They were the only people that will let us cover their events as no-name streamers that nobody had ever heard of before. And Solar came across the world, cross server, to play from Korea, to play in every single North American Zotac Cup, and most of the European ones too. This was back before, you know, Kespa was dead and there was Region Lock and all this other things. But the point is, Solar was him and Armani, and I believe, was it Trend? Burning? There was another third guy, but they all played cross server, and Solar was the one we always see doing well. So since then, he's been a pretty good close friend of the channel. He plays in most events we need him to. He has on occasion scumbagged us, but we don't hold it against him because we know he means well. And in this game versus Trap, he's skipped directly to his third base. This best of 5 comes, by the way, after 2 other best of 5s, and a quick reminder that this is worth $200 for the winner and $100 for the runner-up. This is first and second place in the new ESL Cups that have the $400 prize pool. But yeah, third base goes down just to avoid any kind of harassment in the natural. Solar will absolutely go back and take the second base when he can. The drone heads over to transfer, start mining, and really Trap has not done much or lost anything out really to this. So as he goes back home, you know, we see he's got his own Nexus on the way, about halfway done. My big question is, what's the tech path? You know, Twilight Council and Resonating Glaives has been really popular recently. I'm gonna say flavor of the month-ish. I'm not sure if that's the path this will go for Trap, because Trap doesn't play in as much of our stuff, so we don't get to see him on the regular. I don't know what his preferred playstyle is, but it is a Twilight Council to open. Now, the really important thing about this, excuse me, is once upon a time, not even that long ago, like 4 months, if you went for Twilight Council first with Adepts and Resonating Glaives, you were going all in, and you were in it to win it. However, nowadays, in more modern StarCraft times, this actually ends up being more akin to, I guess, Maru's Turax, if you will. It's something that is an opener, but not necessarily something that will be all in. So that's if it's Resonating Glaives. Blink is still viable. Charge is less viable, but still good. I'm really just curious what's cooking. To me, if a Twilight Council comes down without a Dark Shrine, it's got to be Resonating Glaives. Usually a Dark Shrine pairs up with this, so we see the Warp Prism bring DTs, Archons, you know it, but boom! Sorry, I'm just giving myself a little applause for being correct on that one. Always get Chrono out too. Now, the key thing to spot here, if you're watching the game as a casual, to know whether this is going to be super committed or not, is how many gateways go down. So, for example, if we have 4 gateways total, it's not going to be that much. But if you start getting like 3 extra gateways in the main, plop another one down here, you know, 5 or 7, then you know you're in all-in territory. I think this is going to bring him up to 5 total. No, 4 total. Okay, so I wouldn't measure this as going to be that all-in out of Trap. He is, however, still going to be required to do a pretty significant amount of damage to make this worth going for. Because the idea for Trap is whatever amount of adepts he makes, whether it's 5, 7, 15, 55, 55? Any boomers out there remember that video? No matter what amount he makes, he's likely going to lose all of them. So the damage he does has to be good enough that Trap doesn't fall susceptible to a counterattack after Solar defends. And the idea is because it's not an all-in version, Solar should be able to defend. Yeah, Resonating Glaives increases the attack speed by, what is it, like 45%? Oh, just completed, I can't check. I think it's like 45%. So they get a pretty big boost. Yeah, now they fire every 1.1 seconds. Chasing the transfer is always scary because you don't know where it's going. Obviously, the cancel ends up being a bit of a bait. Trap continues to warp in more adepts, and that count is actually at such a dangerous amount with 12. Queens actually might not even survive that long. Roaches won't do that well, and Lings will just fall apart. If they're all fighting together, that's different, but that's where this becomes really difficult. You see, Solar has to split his units. He's got a spine crawler down here even just to help a little bit. He has to split his units up to make sure that he's on both ends of this. He has to chase both the potential transfer as well as the actual adepts and keep them from just walking into the mineral line. Actually, what's really kind of cool is because he's got the spine crawler up, something most people don't invest into. While that won't single-handedly stop adepts, it will draw any kind of auto attack fire, meaning Trap will have to actually target fire the drones, giving Solar just that few extra seconds necessary to respond. But there's speed on the Lings. He's going for a counterattack. No speed on the Roaches. No upgrades, really. It's really bare bones for Solar, excuse me. Trap on the other side of the field is not going to get a third base up. Solar's going to make sure of that if he can. Bigs around here on the sentries would be nice. Grabbing a stalker, still freebie. All of this, of course, distracts Trap. So over here, these stalkers get caught initially for them now heading up to the main base. The adepts have been brought back home. They're going to be part of the defense. Sentries have exhausted all of their energy. Solar doesn't really have an answer for the stalkers right now, but as long as they're not in the main base, they're not a problem. He'll go for the attack on the other side of the map, but I mean, it is an age-old, saying the best defense is a good offense, and if it can keep Trap busy on his side of the field, then he won't have to worry about shenanigans like this. But 4 stalkers in the main, no blink, but that's where the warp prism's supposed to come in handy. Either way, this is enough to one-shot a drone, as you can see with that combo. So I think he was looking for a few more worker kills than what he's got so far. Really not that worth it. A quick peek at the income graph shows this has been kind of back and forth, but now locked into 2 bases. Solar actually has a really powerful army, obviously encroaching from the outside, but he doesn't actually have to commit. Solar could very easily soft contain Trap, starve him out on 2 bases if he felt that he couldn't win this fight, but I kind of feel like we're getting some big numbers here for Solar. Sentries aren't going to be completely useless, but they've used most of their force fields, and of course force fields are just going to get broken here by the corrosive biles. As the Ravagers continue to back away, Lings support this, but this is not something I think Solar can break. And he just went from 80 supply to 64, pretty steep drop off there. And you look at the actual supply for the last couple minutes. Dark Shrine comes out, and well, there's some Dark Shrine stuff we could talk about if it comes into play. I'm not sure if it'll be DTs or if it's just for some Archons. Archons would be fantastic for this situation though, because the one thing Trap's really missing is area of effect damage of some variety, of any variety really. Whether it's Colossus, Storms, or in this case Archons, just having some way to wash off those Zerglings, because they are numerous and they are many. 64. Charge can do okay. I mean, you're gonna see Zealots warped in, and Zealots and Zerglings have a fun trade out, but for the most part, you want to get rid of them fast, and that's where Archon's going to be really useful. Part of me is secretly hoping, though, that we see DTs for the actual sake of a Dark Templar. I'd love to see one of these just run across the map and get to those mineral lines, because Solar doesn't have any... Well, he's got Spore Crawler there, I suppose, in here, but the natural's wide open with no Spore Crawlers. So there's certainly an opportunity there. Double Immortals inside the Warp Prism are also going to be really good for harassment, because they're super frustrating to kill with that barrier ability they have. Oh, it's a hallucinated Phoenix. I'm like, what is attacking on the other side of the field right now? And it's a whole lot of Jack Squad. Okay, Roach speed finishing up shortly. This is still pretty techless overall. I mean, for both sides, it's not really been super about upgrades. I guess a little bit here for Trap, but Solar has been playing very bare bones, just getting a lot of units out. And while that's not a great late game strategy, that's okay for now, because it's not really the late game. This is still the mid game, and brute force can certainly win out. Solar's like, how many Ravagers is that now? That's 13 Ravagers. That is that's a lot of corrosive biles that are just gonna get spammed out. Now, we did see the DTs end up trying to be sneaky assassins. First one gets caught, second one's finding an opportunity to get in there. Force field's going down like nuts. This also zones out the Protoss army though, funny enough. But man, it's 128 army supply. Trap third base is super dead. Main base is getting screwed over by Lings. DT's warping to defend, but he's really got to stop this army out of Solar, and I don't know if he can with what he has. And I think I'd love to see him snipe off the Overseer. It's the only form of protection. 2 more Immortals join the fight. Now that Warp Prism is going to start juggling, and this is where a good Protoss player gets to shine. They start juggling their units through the Warp Prism. Picks up the Immortal, keeps it alive. Always love to see it. Chases Solar back. Solar kills the third base, sure. Kills 20 probes. But as long as Trap has an army, he's still fighting. That being said, though, I think Solar should be able to defend this counterattack. And if Solar defends, Solar wins. If Solar loses, Trap wins. It's as simple as that. This game will likely be decided by this next fight. Because Trap knows 2 bases and 30 probes is not where he wants to be for the long game. Oh, big shots as he's pushed back. Corrosive Biles are scary. They do hit for 60 damage, so you can't sit there. Some of the Immortal Barriers are on cooldown right now, so he seems scooping up with the Warp Prism. God, it's so good to watch a Protoss player do that well, but at the same time, infuriating to play against, I'm sure. Trap around the top side. Corrosive Biles double kill the Immortals. Okay, that was the type of win Solar needed for some of this fight, but still, that's a long cooldown, and I don't think he'll get another gimmick shot off like that again. But remember, Trap's like out of steam, right? This is it for him. This army either breaks Solar or he taps out. And I don't know if or which it's gonna be. Solar's got like 10 more roaches, 16 Lings on the way. Oh, Solar's gonna be the one who taps out. GG. Trap actually takes game 1 of the series. I wasn't expecting that though. That was impressive. I thought Trap was super dead, just to be honest with you guys. I thought Trap was super dead. Welcome back, everybody. It's game number 2. As you're all aware, Trap won game number 1. And so spawning here to the bottom right side of the map, we have the red Zerg player. It's Solar. And to the top left side of the map, we have the blue Protoss Trap. And if you're wondering why I suddenly sound so curt and frustrated going from game 1 to game 2, thanks to the magic of video editing, you've missed me messing up this several times and forgetting to hit record. Will, cut that out of the video! But this time, this is the magic one. I can feel it. Now, before we get into the game and before we talk too much about anything, I do want to highlight the pricing for this one more time. $200 for first place and $100 for second is insane, considering just last week the prize pool was $100 for first place and nothing else for anybody else. And what's been great is through all of the ESL Cups, because I'm doing this in the aftermath, we've seen incredible participation bumps. The North American one that I cast just last night had like 129 people sign up. That's insane. Those are numbers you would see in Europe. Those are not numbers you'd see in North America. So I'm glad to see that the prize pool bump has attracted a lot more people, but granted, this is the first week. I'm sure it'll probably be a little bit more than expected. I'm hoping we continue to see this as like an upward trend though, because more people playing StarCraft is always a good thing. But anyways, yeah, as we hop into this one, it is a replay. Regrettably, you know, we can't always cast these live, and this was one of the ones where it went really, really late. I think I woke up at like 1 a.m. to cast, and it was still going on at like 6 or something, and I just couldn't. So we tapped out. We hosted Wardy, and I didn't get to cast the finals live, but that's why I'm happy to grab these replays and we do them here. But yeah, Solar has skipped the natural again. Just highlighting this, a good way to get around Trap being super duper annoying. Because you bet he'd probably put a pylon block and just circle around with a probe. He's being annoying with the minerals too, in fairness. But Trap went for a bit of a risky move last game. And I want to point out that victory, I don't necessarily feel was always in his hands. Resonating Glaives is one thing, but it was more about the follow-up with that push. You know, he took so much damage to the Ling run by out of Solar. That, by the way, should never have really happened. That's just on Trap not paying attention to the main. Because he did eventually obviously warp in DTs and he cleaned them up, but after losing what, 20? I think it was like 20 probes went down. I think that he could have really solidified that game as an easy win if those workers in the main didn't die, or at least not nearly as many of them. But that was pretty touch and go for a bit at the end, and Solar had a lot of Corrosive Biles. And for Corrosive Biles is such an interesting mechanic to me. It's a Stargate, by the way, out of Trap. But 60 damage, and it's magic damage, so it ignores armor. And it's one of those things where if you get hit by it, you take a significant amount of damage. But if you dodge out of it, you still have to give up the damage you're dealing because you're no longer shooting. You're moving out of position while your opponent still shoots at you. So I think Corrosive Bile is one of these mechanics in the game I really like, just because of the cool consequences it has to attach to it. But sadly, it's never usually that big of like a game determining thing. However, it always makes me so excited to see Ravagers, because I know that players can do a lot with them. I do want to take a bit of a stinky tease at Solar though, because if you guys don't know, we also, as he's been a long friend of the channel, we had Solar in some tournaments at the start of the Legacy of the Void beta when Ravagers were still brand new and nobody knew what they were. And I remember there was a game we cast where Solar, there was an Overlord that was not moving. It was a ZVZ, it was stationary, and Solar, it took him like 7 Corrosive Biles to finally hit the Overlord, because he had no idea how the targeting worked for it, I guess. I still to this day don't know what that was about, but I always think back to it when I think of Solar. Or maybe that's a little embarrassing for him, but it's just such a nice like marker of how good he's gotten. It's weird too, because you think of top tier Koreans, you don't really think of them improving, right? We're thinking about players like Clem, who have gone from being this kind of more or less unknown French player to being one of the highest rated players on a Legulac right now. Like, that kind of improvement is obvious. Solar was already good, and going from good to great is not very noticeable. But I do think he's definitely one of the stronger representations of Zerg in Korea. Don't get me wrong. Quickly before you start typing furiously in the comment section, but Rifkin, what about Dark? But Rifkin, what about Sue? I'm not saying that they don't count. I'm just saying Solar's done a really good job being top of the game, and he is definitely one of the top Zergs in Korea. There's no questioning that. Whoever is the top Zerg though, man, that rotates on whoever just ended up playing GSL against and who got the shitty group, right? Am I right? But speaking of GSL, it's been really hard for me to follow since I went on YouTube, and I know the irony of that, me posting this video on YouTube, but I've just been so Twitch my whole life. I've missed so much of this GSL season. I'm a little bummed about it. So hopefully if you guys have been watching, you've been enjoying it too, but you'll have to do it for me as well since I keep sleeping through it. Dark's trying to the top side, by the way. This without resonating glaives looks to be a bit more of a normalized opener. But normal is in air quotes because Dark Templar versus Archon are a little bit, I think, stylistic, but also dependent on if the Zerg knows how to deal with them. Oh, speaking of the Zerg dealing with them, grabbing that Stalker out in the open, easy setting how to cancel this natural, excuse me, third base. I was a little distracted because I saw the blips on the minimap. Adepti managed to get to the other side of the field and start killing a couple drones. Queens will, of course, clean this up, but a canceled third base, a dead pylon, and was that 2 dead pylons even? Yeah, that's expensive for Trap. And for Solar, that's nice too, because it's such a non-commitment, those links to do that. But he is following up with some Ravagers. Well, Roaches for now, soon to be Ravagers. He'll need those to break the force fields. The Oracles sit here in a bit of a game of bluff. The funny thing is they could turn on their Pulsar beams and kill all these links, or at least half of them. They'd probably run away. But it costs 25 energy just to turn on the guns, and then it drains like what, 2 energy per second? 2 energy per second. So if you waste all your energy on those lings, you're not going to have them for the follow-up push, which this is weird. We have Queens walking across Roaches. Like, if you took a quick glance at this and saw nothing else, you'd think all in, right? But he's actually building drones out, and he's droning quite a bit. He's already ahead too. Like, Solar's going to have a fantastic economy, and Trap still doesn't have a third base, and Solar knows about this. He's left a ling up here. He just finished poking down here. I mean, even if a third base finally goes down for Trap, I'm going to bring up the income graph here for a moment. You're going to see it's already trending towards Solar because of all the drones he's been making, but it's going to go even further because he's mining off of these bases spread out really nicely. And there's a 4th one on the way. Yeah, 4 DTs as expected. Now, the beauty with this kind of harassment is it's really difficult to push off, even if you have a bunch of Queens out there shooting the Warp Prism. But there's a Spore Crawler. He is on Layer Tech. There shouldn't be a lot of opportunity for the Dark Templar to do damage. Oftentimes, you'll see Protoss players try and put the 4 DTs in first, let them try and snipe a hatchery or a couple drones, and then pick up and turn them into Archons after. That's not going to work here, though. Solar has detection. So by all means, Solar should be good for this. Yep, immediately identifying that Trap picks up and withdraws. Not worth the commitment at all. Well, as he goes across the map the other way, excuse me, Oracles have a lot of energy. I think stasis traps will be in order. Putting a couple stasis wards down will hopefully catch some units Mortal's on the way too. That's gonna help out a bit. Solar gets a big scout of all of this too. Full scout in the main. Okay. Gazoon tight. Now +1 weapons finishing shortly. Weapon upgrades will help a ton, but I mean, when you look at the numbers, it's 2 to 1. It's almost 3 to 1 in terms of army supply. And Solar can probably brute force a victory out of this if he does it right. There's really not that many units for Trap. Even if you assume these Archons and the Immortals fight as efficiently as possible, it's still just, they have to kill so many units. Just like it's a numbers game, right? 30 roaches? Okay. Yeah, the Immortals will kill that eventually. Ravagers come down with some corrosive bows, break the force fields. The other ones threaten the army. He is fighting by some shield batteries, which is nice, but oh, he's left the front doors wide open. Solar runs right in with the Lings. He's gonna hit the main base too, and frankly, there's just nothing here, so pulling the probes is the only option. Pulling the probes over here, also the other option. All of the probes in the entire game are being rallied towards this base right now with a 50 probe count saturation. So try to set them back now. The Lings have not been cleaned up, however. So if he sends them back too soon, it's like reopening of the country, man. COVID-19, but with Zerglings. You think it's fine, but then you realize it's not. And yeah, I guess the Natural's finally getting cleaned up. 11 workers die. Solar is starting to lose out on some of his momentum, but he's still up like double the army supply. And that's going to be game 2 in favor of Solar. Welcome back, everybody. Game number 3 takes off on the map Eternal Empire. Spawning here to the top right side of the map, we have the red Zerg player. It is Solar. And to the bottom left, the Korean Protoss Trap. But a question that I wanted to try and answer through this video that we got commonly in Twitch chat when we were casting this live, well, not this match, obviously, but the other ones, was about the time change. So for those watching on YouTube, this probably doesn't affect you at all. But for those who are watching and you come and go for both, this was originally a tournament that is for all of this year so far happened on Sundays. They changed this. This tournament took place on a Monday. The time changed. The new best of 5 format caught a lot of us off guard. It's a big part of why I didn't cast this one live. But the key thing about this is why it was moved off the weekends. ESL made a public statement about this, pretty much saying that, look, there's big events that are going to happen on the weekends throughout the year. This is true. This has happened for me and Wardy and everybody else for the last however many years of StarCraft. Big events happen on weekends. So things like the ESL Cups kind of get wasted if they end up happening at the same time as a large big event. Not to mention with a huge $400 prize pool, it seems like quite a waste. So they moved it to Monday nights instead. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the Mondays, and I'm really not a fan. Whoa, what am I, Garfield? God damn it. And I'm not a fan of the best of 5 semifinal changes, but at the end of the day, more StarCraft is never bad, and you won't hear me complain about that. I do hope that they maybe do some time adjustments, because I think they just blanketly moved everything to 6 p.m. local time. So like Korea 6 p.m., Europe 6 p.m., CET. And for some reason for North America, they did 6 p.m. Central as the time. But I'm sitting there hearing that, like, who the uses Central time for anything? I've been doing this for 8 years, and every single person, every sponsor, every player I've ever worked with, you either go off of the East Coast or the West Coast. I don't know a single person who's gone off of Central except for ESL. Not important, just kind of caught me off guard when they announced it, because I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know what that time conversion is, because nobody uses Central. So I had to go to Google, and I'm like, what's CDT to PDT? Anyways, I guess quick little anti-shout out to all my Central homies who are watching this video, wherever you are. Well, I guess I know where you are. You're in the Central time zone. You. Sorry, bringing it back though. With Trap and Solar playing, it's gone back and forth. Okay, cool beans. Who's gonna take this? Couldn't call it. I think that if I had to flip a coin, I'd say Solar, just because, again, he's a friend of the channel. But Trap, aside from I'm gonna say the riskiness that was game 1, he was looking pretty strong there. Game 2 was obviously a lot weaker, and frankly, that supply dominance from Solar was kind of insane. I think at one point it was like 120 supply to 50 for army. Not something any good player is going to be able to handle well. So I'm wondering if Solar is going to keep that kind of momentum press. He sees in game 1 that Trap's going to be very aggressive if he lets him, and he knows that in game 2, if he gets aggressive, he can overwhelm. So this might not be a series dictated by a bunch of like 40-minute macro games. It may be a series dictated by more like 10 to 15-minute games favoring one player or the other. Boy, that was about the most vanilla commentary thing I've ever said in my life. This game could go well for either player. Who knows? I think Trap could be a winner. And I also think Solar could be a winner. Ugh. No, I'll say it. I think I favor Solar quite a bit. I think ZVP is just a little bit more Zerg favored anyways, but that is based off of a lot of late game stuff we see. And most Protoss players are pretty vocal about saying there's not really a strong late game for Protoss in this matchup. And I don't blame them. Infestors help nullify a lot of things. Vipers are pretty ridiculous. Corruptors deal with the air so efficiently. So when you do see a Protoss player pull off a late game victory, I always think it's a little impressive, no matter what the style with it was. But I haven't really touched on it. Let's go back to the fact that it's resonating glaives. We're not seeing too many gateways come down, right? He's going to be on about 4 again. So this is going to look a lot more similar to game 1 than anything else. Hopefully more effective. We'll find out. Same things apply though. With resonating glaives, especially with Chrono Boost being dumped into it, the idea is that these adepts don't have to do game-ending damage, but they have to do enough damage so that the inevitable counterattack doesn't kill Trap. So whether that's killing all the drones and crippling the economy, or whether it's just trading out for the army, I mean, resonating glaives lets him do that. Back at him continues to probe. That puts him on the second gas, but nitpicky. The key thing is whether he goes for more probes than he needs. Protoss players overmake probes when they're taking expansions, so you'll see a base saturated like 27 out of 16 or 18 or whatever if they're planning to take a third or a fourth. So we do see more probe production, and oh, it's on a gas. That's weird. Okay, never seen it quite like that before. The adepts, I don't think this is a full transfer, is it? Oh, he might meet up with the rest of the adepts. No. This was kind of clever. I almost wish he hadn't pulled these back, because with that secondary transfer getting picked up in the Warp Prism, he did pull Solar down to the natural base, and those adepts could have gone to the third over here. That opportunity is missed now, though. The other part that sucks about this is because of the investment in adepts, if Trap wants to play out of this and build a third base and build probes, etc., that's going to take a lot of time. Something that's not going to be easily made up once Solar goes across the map for a counterattack, saying, okay, you've done your harassment, you've done your bit, are you done? Good, I'll take my turn. And he goes immediately across the field. He's probably rallied down to where the third should be. This will be one of the easiest cancels of his life, dude. There's no way Trap can hold this, I don't think. Well, actually, I take that back. There's actually, I didn't realize sentries were involved. I saw the Immortal and thought, Immortal versus Lynx, whatever. The force fields changed this up quite a bit. The force field should be able to save quite a few units here. Not to mention, we bring up, again, it's resonating glaives. These are going to be attacking a lot faster. They're going to be mowing down the Zerglings. At least that's the goal. That's the idea. Oh, I thought this would be a super easy cancel for Solar. I was wrong. And I'm okay with being wrong. Feels really bad though. So, you know, make sure you guys like this video to cheer me up. But all jokes aside, Solar still has an income lead because he's had more workers. That being said, this doesn't mean he's going to defend this. An income lead takes like, I'd say about 4 or 5 minutes, 3 depending what you're doing, to really translate into army supply. So, well, Solar had possibly a lot of money going forward. It wouldn't matter if he died here. So he immediately starts holding down the army button, building a lot of units up. I still don't think he has an incredible defense, but Trap's chosen not to commit. He did take a third base after all, and this didn't need to be the all-in that it initially looked like it may have been. Banelings coming out too. This is gonna be big. Look, Banelings are gonna have a much harder time connecting to Adepts, for sure. And that's one of the big advantages to playing Adepts instead of Zealots, for example. But the same thing applies. If they get the connections, they're going to kill. And Adepts are light units that just pop off so quickly. Honestly, I think at the end of the day, the Immortals probably... The Immortal and the Sentries are going to be the most annoying part of this to deal with. There are some Ravagers out, but there's not enough to break endless force fields right now. So, you know, he puts down 3 force fields, Solar breaks them, then he just puts them back down again. Because these Sentries have a lot of energy. They, I think one's been scouting, so it's, I think one of these is like a little bit emptier than the rest. But the most part, they're almost full energy. There should be a considerable amount of force fields. Might not be relevant though, man. This is actually, I said, this is why very specifically I don't look at the times of the replays, guys, because if I do, it's a spoiler for me. But Being wrong again, I was saying this might not be a long macro game, but with Solar now on 4 bases, Trap on 3, this could actually very well go macro. And I think Protoss have a lot of strength through Storm and Archons. You know, a lot of the time you see those carrier mothership wins. It's not the carrier mothership that's necessarily winning. It's usually the Storms and the Archons underneath it. So I feel like Trap's actually got the tools for a really great army no matter what he wants to go with. But he needs those Storms to be able to fight. Because those Storms will wash off the Banelings. Those Storms will wash off the Zerglings. And then what's left? Roaches and Ravagers? That's where the Immortals clean up. There's some charge coming out too. That's going to be a little helpful, but Banelings really are a huge threat for this army. Prism scoops up 4 Adepts over here. Sneaks by the Spore Crawler, so you should be able to unload these. With the Zerglings right here. Yeah, Solar responds immediately. Now, Trap actually ends up target firing down the drones trying to chase these down. He's going to lose most of everything he had here anyways. He could have traded up for the Zerglings, but he really wanted the drones. Top middle base being taken 2, bottom middle base. So, okay. Buckle in, guys. He'll be in for the long one. I'm not opposed to that, but when you look at the resources lost and consider how little has gone down so far this game, this does mean both players should ideally have maxed out supplies, since nobody's been losing army after army trading out to get to this point. Remember, Storm's done too. All these Banelings and Zerglings are super susceptible to Storm. It's just going to tear all of them apart. Their HP is way too low. Oh, I like this. I like this actually with the cannons. Cannons won't stop this, but they'll buy time. Not a lot, but they'll buy time. Solar's not on +2 yet, so we'll take 2 shots from a Baneling to kill a probe. Grabbing 3 in a Nexus isn't too bad, but you have to consider for Solar, this cost a lot of Banelings to make this happen. This, on paper, wasn't worth it when it comes down to like the mineral gas trade, I feel. But the supply block, the army being out of position, probes being disrupted, and of course, Trap, actually, I didn't realize how screwed in supply he is. Holy crap. His max supply rate is 149. He literally can't warp in any units until he loses half of his army, pretty much. Not a position you want to be in. But he does have, man, still, those sentries have a lot of energy. The Templar are so, oh, no, oh, god damn it, that was close. Clutch force fields. Army out of position though. Solar runs in and his base is going down again if he's not careful. Trap. Oh, so bold not to cancel. This should still get canceled though. If not, it's gonna get killed. He goes for the force field. Hold on. Is this worth it though? Okay, he saves the Nexus, and I've been wrong at literally every single call this game. That's how you know it's authentic, because I didn't rewind to correct myself. But this Nexus is gonna finish with like no HP. No, it's not even gonna finish. The Lings go back in for round 2. They got +1 weapons. They're gonna absolutely tear this down. Chop again. It was a kill, not a cancel. 400 minerals down the drain. Something happened in the top left. I'm assuming it was Archons, maybe. I don't know what was in the War Prism, but I don't know if it'll be super relevant. Banelings do get in connections, even though Storms kill a lot of them. Immortals cut out on the right side, separated. This ramp is like, god damn, you can't push down. It's Protoss, you can't push up a Zerg. The Trap does find a way to push down. Round 4 or 5 of the Banelings are going to come in. Base to the south has a couple of Zerglings at a quick glance. I think they're just chipping away at the probes. Yep. Solar, however, is being beaten back and he's giving up ground. He's up in army supply though, pretty considerably actually. 104 to 59. Where's the Warp Prism? It's right here. It's not juggling. It's not warping in units. Broodlords, hello. Where did these come from? I didn't even see these. Trap didn't see these. He's got like what, 3 stalkers? I said the long haul and I was wrong yet again. Solar, in the most wrong cast I've ever done in my life, takes game 3, now leading this series 2-1. As if you think I ever stopped recording after that last game, after that last incident. No, dude, I'm fucking good. Okay, let's go. All right. Welcome back, StarCraft fans. I've got the scores in the wrong position. Fuck. Welcome back, everybody. It's game number 4 here in the finals. As the best of 5 continues, this man is on his last life. To the top right side of Zen, we have the red Protoss, Trap. His opponent to the bottom left, the blue Zerg opponent, who's leading and almost winning. It's Solar. Now, as far as the stakes are concerned, if Solar wins this game, then he walks away with $200, and Trap will be forced to, oh, boohoo, walk away with 100. Let me just hand you some money tissues since you need them so badly. But obviously for pro players, you know, while prize money is certainly an incentive to play, if you've ever had the luck to talk to them or hear them discuss this on stream or some of the interviews they've done, it's very clear for most of this game, it's segmented, it's separate. Like, they're not thinking about what the next tournament is, they're not thinking about what the next prize pool is. They're just here in the moment, they're playing the game the best they can. And I think with these two being such a high competitive spirit, or being at such a high competitive level with competitive spirits, it's probably more about just trying to win, not necessarily about, oh my god, I'm so close to the money. So I hope Trap gives it his best go, but if he dies, then Solar wins, takes it all 3-1, and we're one and done. If Trap wins, we go to game 5. And no matter where I am, no matter how tired I ever may be or how whiny I get, I will always be rooting for that game number 5. Because I think the best StarCraft games are not ones that are one-sided, but very back and forth. A little annoying here to start. This probe just doing what it does, crashing the mineral line. This takes me back. Last week, last week's cast feels like just yesterday for me, but last week, Stats versus Scarlet. Stats ended up losing a game to Scarlet because he focused too much on that mineral line harassment there and never scouted her gas timing or her pool. And just ended up like having the worst, most embarrassing game as a result. So I do like that Trap took the time to scout. This is just only noteworthy because another great player messed this up recently, but as he kind of meanders around and pokes, he sees the natural base again at the third. I kind of like the consistency from Solar. He's just not wasting time. He's not giving Trap the opportunity to punish him for taking a greedy base or anything like that. He's not playing dick around here the natural with a pylon. He's just straight up expanding. And I think Solar has full intention to play with 3 bases anyways, so it works out. Trap has gone for a Stargate for his opener, not Twilight Council, so we are seeing some change-ups here. Stargates I always feel are a little bit safer, even though you can be a little bit riskier with them. Whereas Twilight Councils are definitely a bit touch and go, and the score actually reflects that very nicely. But I like this Stargate play, not because it's a safe move to do on Zen in particular, because it's a much safer move than what he's been doing up to this point. And while Resonating Glaives is cool, it's clearly not working against Solar, not at least in the way he wants it to. So I do like the change up in tech. These 2 adepts come across the map pretty quick, and there's some argument from Zerg players about sacrificing these first 2, about whether it's good versus bad. For Trap, obviously you'd like to kill some drones with this. So Solar's done a really good job denying the damage just by running away. Yes, he's losing a lot of mining time, but he would be losing a lot of drones if he wasn't. So only 2 workers end up dying to this. Now granted, Trap's adepts live, and that's awesome. Oh, we're trying to find the safe spot. That's really awesome for Trap, but definitely didn't do that much damage. Oracle's gonna be the weapon of choice. I'm like super jaded about how I feel about Oracles. I don't know. I'm thinking back to every great Oracle play of all time, and it all comes from like a year ago or more. The openers are pretty solid in terms of, you get in there, you poke a couple of drones, right? If the player's playing greedy, there's no spore crawlers, you get a lot of damage done, but for the most part, you know, it's either 2 oracles or you see that kind of Phoenix Oracle combo, and they don't really get that many kills. The strength of the oracles still, to me, comes from the mid game and the late game. Casting Revelation, stasis wards, you name it. Map control is what I think oracles are best at. Oh, and high ground vision too, so you can finally end up that overlord. You know, it's funny because if we were casting Bly or somebody who's more akin to doing Nidus Worms, this wouldn't just be like a nice overlord to deny, it'd be a very important one to shut down. But Solar, while I know he's willing to do Nidus Worms and throw down, he's not that kind of a guy. So, just a nice scouting. Yeah, their base reveal, not really a lot to show, frankly. Stargate openers are pretty linear. Solar honestly doesn't really need to do almost any scouting. You can probably blindly guess what trap's sitting behind it because there's only really one way this plays out, and that's of course already has that robo kicking away. Third base finishing up soon. These oracles go for a blitz attack in the main. This is risky at a trap. We're seeing some good micro. He gets out of there with 10 health on one, 11 on the other. Yikes. I was so worried that they were both going to die there for a second when the first one that was low zipped back in. I thought, oh no, the miscontrol of the century, but actually ended up being great control. And with this, we have a Spire coming up for Solar, but he's gonna have to deal with a small poke at a trap. Now, I don't know if Trap's planning to commit to any kind of fight with this. He might just be looking for a little bit of creep cleanup and frankly punishing Solar if he's playing super greedy. The Phoenix is gonna scout that there's hardly anything here, and that might look really, really tempting to go in for. In a pinch, in a worst case scenario, like these sentries have a lot of energy. He could force field himself off and recall home. So Trap's aggression with such a small amount of units, and most importantly, no Warp Prism to go with it, is bold, but he's not actually going to step in, so he won't be punished for it. There's no reason that Immortal should be out there. Oh no, Trap. Please don't lose this to Lings. He tries to force field it. He does save it, but oh my god, 24 HP. I just sat there watching it happen like it was in slow-mo. Like what any other player, you know, you give me Joe Schmo Masters League, that fine. This is Trap, and he's on his last life versus Solar in the grand finals. You don't get to make mistakes, Trap. You can't make mistakes. On that note, by the way, we do have 11 Mutalisks coming out, and there's hardly any anti-air here. Now, it would be fair to say that sentries, as garbage as they are, throw up, you know, 2 Guardian Shields, have a few Stalkers. The damage actually won't be too bad in terms of fighting back against low mutas, but that's only if there's not also Zerglings and other units around. He'll actually catch a couple of them right off the bat. Ooh, Archon's now in play too. That's gonna be really nice. I changed this around entirely. This went from like a really awkward army to like a really sturdy one, small but strong. On the other side of the map, the mutas do hit, and there's nothing here to stop this. Even if he warps and Zealots to deal with the Lings, he doesn't have anything that shoots up. He's gonna have to recall the Archons if he wants any chance to fight, but he's already losing control of the base. No recall being initiated, because the other part too is like if he does recall home, then he kind of leaves his front line exposed to anti-air. It's a real tough situation to be in. He is killing the Spire though. That's gonna deny weapon upgrades. He's got Zealots and Adepts on this base as well. We're kind of in a weird base trade scenario, and if I was live on Twitch, I'd be like, guys, Ace 1, Ace 2 in the chat for the base trade. But he is gonna lose 3 hatcheries by the looks of it. Trap's gonna lose a Nexus for sure. Maybe both. The Phoenix started getting made maybe in the nick of time. Phoenix are such a hard counter to Mutalisks, but the problem is it's not just Mutalisks. There's a ton of Zerglings running around underneath this too. So hoping, oh, wait a minute. Did he actually lose all the bases? Sorry, we're hitting rewind time, guys. Oh, yeah, Solar lost that. He lost his natural. He was gonna lose the third. I see why he tapped out. Okay, GG. Trap ties up this series 2-2, and we're actually gonna go to game 5. Wow. All right, see you guys on game 5. Game number 5 is upon us. And spawning here with 2 points on the board in the bottom right. The map is Simulacrum, and the player is Solar. His opponent to the top left, we have the blue Protoss Trap. Now, I didn't really think this would go to game 5, to be honest. Like I said, when I came into this, I favored Solar pretty heavily. But I guess that was me with consideration to a lot of more conventional PvZs where we watch late gameplay and not these like how long each of these games have been, like what, 10 to 15 minutes, probably less than that even. So it's been a little bit scrappier and it's been a little bit more back and forth, but a lot of it has to do with Trap's aggression. He really has been setting the pace for this. I am curious if he'll continue to do so for this final game or not. I would just love if he like played aggressive in 4 games and then chose to like in game 5 play super turtly. Although I suppose with the Stargate play was a little safer last time. The counter to the mutas was good too. I am still surprised he handled that as well as he did. Sometimes when mutas catch you off guard, even if you start building those Phoenix, 1 or 2 just don't cut it. But I mean, in a perfect world where there's no lag, no latency, and no errors, no human error, Phoenixes would ideally never ever be touched by mutas and would clean all them up. But obviously that's not how it is, and there's human error to factor in at all times. I did like the mutas as solar too. I'm not sure if we go back that path or not, but anyways, early game hasn't changed much. The only big difference is Solar didn't have to get scared out of his natural, so he does actually get a second base down on the second base location and without harassment from the probe. The Overlord gonna float over to the safe spot. Good scouting over the natural, and we'll find out soon what that tech path will be for Trap. If it's, I really don't want him to go back to Twilight Council. I don't think the Resident Glaze worked out for him, and if he does do Twilight Council, I hope it's more for standard Archon harassment. Yeah, just a little bit of a casual, I guess, explanation too, as we get through this final game in the finals. You'll see many of these guys competing throughout the year, right? The ESL points associated with first place are pretty insignificant. The cash value at this point outweighs the ESL points, in my honest opinion. But yeah, 10 ESL points adds up when we've got people like Clem and Hero Marine, Scarlet for a time, although she's kind of disappeared and lost a lot recently. We've just had a lot of people that accrue these points, and most of them don't equate to too much more than, say, like round of 64, round of 32 at a big offline event. But that's only with, what, a third of the year-ish done? I think that if you had somebody like Clem or Hero Marine consistently play every single weekly cup and win even just half of them, that's going to be almost like playing an extra tournament. It could get you a lot better seeding, or even be the difference of being invited to or not invited to Katowice next year, which, for those who don't know, is the big year-end now. BlizzCon is no longer part of the tournament circuit. To my knowledge, there will still be StarCraft at BlizzCon. It just won't be, because there's no more WCS, ESL took over. There's not going to be a big esports thing. If they do something at BlizzCon, it's likely to be a once-off thing, or maybe they'll go back to doing some fun show matchy style stuff like they did in the past. Do you guys remember when they brought Boxer out to play? That was so wild and random and pretty cool, to be honest. But, well, I don't know what their plans are, and I can't speak for them. They have said that they do plan to make StarCraft happen at BlizzCon in some capacity. So, yeah, Katowice is now the big year-end event, which is really wild considering for years, literally years, it's been BlizzCon. That's the one everyone's going for and shooting for at the end of the year. But it is resonating Glaze, and Trap has gone back to his old ways. I don't like it. I really don't. And not because of the build, but because it hasn't worked versus Solar. I think if this was any lesser of a Zerg player, then yeah, keep at it, right? Eventually it'll work. But it's not a lesser Zerg player. It's Solar. Solar is unquestionably, with the score of this series alone as proof, able to handle these attacks. Actually, wish I had taken some water before I started casting this. Sorry guys, give me one sec. Good water. Shout out to all the Hydra homies watching this video. All right, so Warp Prism's got about 4 of the adepts inside of it. There's a lot of Zerglings kind of meandering around the field, but the big thing is Solar is getting roaches. Zerglings alone would struggle to deal with the adepts. Not saying they couldn't, but roaches will make it a lot easier. Oh, we did this too. He took a Spinecrawler at the third last time, if I recall. Oh, he cancels it this time. Maybe misunderstanding what's coming? Don't know. Okay, well, either way, without a Spinecrawler, it's not super necessary, but it did certainly help alleviate some of the pressure. Warp into the main is huge, but you can see Solar's here waiting. The Queens would obviously love to shoot the Warp Prism above the Adepts. The Adepts are not the priority target. The Warp Prism certainly is, but the Lynx chase a transfer that don't go through. The second group of Adepts try to move in over here, but the Roaches spawn and push them off. These Adepts try to transfer down, and so far, this has been a really solid, very tight hold out of Solar, but it's not over until all the Adepts are gone. Because I've seen Zerg players go from 0 to like 12 worker skill just by missing one transfer. And in fact, that sort of happened here. Thinking that he had pushed off the top, he had pulled everything back to the main base, leaving nothing to defend the third, and 12 workers get picked off. And I'm pretty sure only like 2 died in the main, and most came from the third base. So ultimately for Trap, this went better than any of his other Adept attempts so far this series. But now we get into scary territory because Solar might actually just go for an all-in counterattack, which is very common to do as a result of this. Yeah, he's not building drones up to replace the ones he's lost. He's just building more Zerglings. Queens probably can't save these drones alone. Pulling them away makes more sense. And he's not coming back to defend because he knows the time is now. Pushing across the map, gets a pretty good time here. The Immortals are outside of the wall. Now realizing his error, Trap starts pulling the back. Force field goes down, but the force field's broken immediately by the corrosive biles. It should be fairly free to just fire away at the front wall without being too committed. There's a third base that might need to get canceled. I don't think Trap has any means to defend this. Plus the 400 minerals could really help him out in the natural. Yeah, it's gonna be really risky to let that finish because that's absolutely gonna die. Not really a lot to add to this, just watching the micro from both sides. You know, the corrosive biles are on point. They're not missing the force fields. Solar's, I think, even arguably waiting to use them for the force fields. Trap is a Dark Shrine on the way. You know, the Dark Shrine could clutch this if it finishes because Solar has no means for detection. We're going to see the Warp Prism juggle the Immortals. That's always really cool to see, especially when done really well. And he is pushing Solar back. Solar's on 28 workers behind this, by the way, folks. There is no recovery out of this game unless he kills this natural base. He's going to be way too far behind. Now he does pick up another Immortal. Snipes some of the sentries. Warp Prism doing what it can here, but Solar, he's running out of steam, but so's Trap. Like, Trap has almost no units left. Solar has almost no units left. But Solar's able to use cooldown-based attacks through these corrosive biles, whereas Trap's forced to just hope that his Immortals are off cooldown, I guess. The Dark Shrine's so close to finishing, and I'm telling you, if Trap warps in even one DT, it could save this game. The Dark Shrine is so close, yet so far. Okay, just finished up. Where are these DTs, baby? Clutch. It's time for the clutch. There we go, warping in those DTs. Solar cannot see anything. This might be Trap's game. If it is, it's his series. There's not many workers on the field for either side. Maybe it doesn't end quite here. 33 workers remain 2 bases versus 28 spread across 3. Ultimately, the income should look like on paper closer to even. But of course, you're seeing a lot of probe pulls and transfers, so it's all over the place. Yeah, he's handling it well. I gotta give it a Trap. Calm heads prevail. I really thought he'd be more panicked than he was at that natural fight. He's chased off all the lings at this point. Solar has gone back to droning a little bit, but more notably has a lair, because without this, no overseers, and without overseers, no chance to spot the DTs. Well, this will probably be a painful defense. Archon's really powerful. Biological bonus, they deal damage, extra damage to all Zerg units, and they always do it in the small splash radius too. The ramp though favors Solar a little bit through corrosive biles, but it's a bit of a bluffing game because Trap doesn't know how many Ravagers are really here. Oh, he does. I take it back. That Observer's in such a sick spot. He has full view of all the numbers. He knows exactly where Solar's army is, and he knows that if he goes up north, there'll be nothing to contest him up there. But this one single Zergling out of Solar runs down to the low ground to scout this. Meanwhile, more of those Zerglings run across the field, and what few probes are remaining are being corralled. I don't think this is anything other than an all-in. Trap wins here, or he loses the series. And this attack is kind of not going so hot for Solar. Trap's almost out of units, but so Solar. I guess the difference is Solar's got reinforcements on the way, and that's where this might just seal the deal. Zergling's in a drone pull to really lock it down. He knows there's no probes left on the other side of the field. 3 workers remain for Trap. 4 Immortals without a Warp Prism. I think Solar's got it, guys. 200 bucks. First place. Give it up for Solar. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I already made mention of this, but I'll say it again on the outro. If you liked it, please leave a comment down below. If you really liked it, leave a like on the video. And a big thank you once again to our YouTube editor, Will, who's been helping us pump these videos out. I'll see you guys on the next one.